my spot and then delete.
I'm undefeated. I'm undefeated. I'm undefeated. I'm undefeated.
Whoa. Week 7. We recapping the Magnificent 8. See what I did there? It's like the Magnificent 8, but because there's injuries everywhere, call that Magnificent 8. It's play on words. Welcome to That Helps No One Fantasy Cast on Area 51 Sports Network, the only fantasy football show on the network. In fact, probably one of the only fantasy football shows in Canada. No one's brave enough to take on what we're doing today. Boys, it was quite a week 7, but first and foremost, let's welcome everybody to the show. Matt, good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Excellent. Ted, also very good to see you. Hey, what's going on?
It's a Tuesday, man. It was a wild week of football, and here we are.
I love it. That's why we get together. Steve, obviously, goes without saying, like one of the OGs of THNO. He's always showing up. He's a fact teller. He spits out facts. Steve, welcome to the show. He's a truther.
Spit in facts and truths.
Maybe the okayest advisor on this show. I mean, you're running away with it already this season.
You know, it's an early. It's early on. Well, we'll give the viewers a little bit of hope that you schlubs have a chance still, but I'm also hopeful that someone can make like just a ridiculous ad or start somewhere along the week so we can have a little bit of competition with this.
It's possible. I think everybody make sure that if you would like to ask us questions, join the chat, ask THNO a question on YouTube, on Area 51's YouTube, their Twitter, on the Twitch, I think Facebook even. Ask us a question. We're going to answer them. And if you've got lots of them, then we'll rearrange the show just for you because that's what we do. Lots of injuries this week. Tampa Bay was decimated. And I'm going to take back that word because they only lost 2 people. Decimated means 10. It's a fact. That's a word. It's a word. Mike Evans, who didn't help my squad. That kind of sucked. And who was the other one? Godwin. He's out. So that's not fun. But the main injury that we're all talking about is in Baltimore. Steve, would you like to get into that?
Not really.
Is it in Baltimore? I might argue that the main injury in the league happened in Cleveland.
Oh, right. Well, something
it was pretty crazy, actually. So he blows that ACL. We're talking about Deshaun Watson here. Super good guy. Achilles.
Same leg.
And it was nasty looking. Cleveland faithful were out there chanting, "You deserve it," as he was carted off the field, which was pretty crazy. Cleveland players are pretty pissed about it. And honestly, I never want to cheer for a guy that's got an injury, but you have a hard time feeling bad for a person like that who's just kind of a bad human in general. So
Myles Garrett disagrees, but hey. Did you see what he came out and said?
No, what did he say?
He was basically like, he's a model human being and this, that. I'm like, dude, we can't be doing that.
Yeah, Jameis Winston had something similar to say. I just don't know if I agree. I mean, again, we've talked about this a couple times on the show or whatever. The fact that if he got suspended for the latest thing that he's been exposed for, the league can't even interview the girl who accused him because they settled outside of court and she's got a gag order on what she can say and who she can talk to past that point. So I don't even know if he was going to get suspended. That's still hanging out there. If that doesn't add to your bad human list, then the Cleveland faithful didn't want him. We didn't need him, in my opinion, because there was a couple other good quarterbacks that left. So
nice pun on Brandon Whedon's name there.
Bye, Felicia.
No, we didn't need him.
We didn't need him, Brandon Whedon. Hey, Whedon, start the fire.
It was always burning since the world's been turning. Who else got injured? It felt like there was like a little bit of everybody this week. Devo has got pneumonia.
Probably Brandon
Ayuk. That's what you get for asking for too much money. Well, I would never ask for that much money, so it's not going to happen to me. So it's fine.
I mean, Ted, did you ask for a lot of money when you blew your Achilles or knee or any of the?
Maybe he did. Maybe it's the sort
Shouldn't
of
you
stuff
ask for a lot of money if you do that? I don't know. I feel like you're trying to look out for something. I would.
that- yeah, that one was pretty
Yeah,
brutal.
I asked for a lot of money, but Jersey City just told me to
Yeah,
go kick rocks.
yeah. And then there's the tweet that's going around today that the healthiest receiver on the Niners roster is a guy that was shot 2 months ago. It's like, man, the stuff just writes itself right now. It's awesome. It is absolutely awesome.
There's never a shortage of storylines like there is in the NFL. That's for damn sure.
Oh, it's
This week,
perfect.
I don't know if we've seen such. Like I was trying to rack my brain on a week in the last 3, 4, 5 years in one singular week where so many star players went out, and these are players that are impacting fantasy football rosters everywhere, right? Like everybody has had Evans, Godwin, Ayuk, maybe not Deshaun Watson, but I mean his usage and him being in there is going to impact that whole offense, and what they want to do probably is going to turn into, and I mean Ted can speak to this, but probably turning heavier to that run game, right? Like DK got hurt. We're not certain, how serious that one is, but does that like boost Jackson Smith and Jigba stock? There were so many star players that impact fantasy football teams everywhere that we either know they're completely gone for the year and you're kind of scrambling, and the waiver wire is going to be freaking insane this week because I haven't used any waiver bucks in any of my leagues, and I've been waiting for somebody to kind of just appear out of nowhere. Maybe it's I won't spoil too much, but maybe it's a Bucks wide receiver, maybe it's a 49ers wide receiver. Like there's just so many guys that could spend a lot of fab bucks right now.
And did you hear about the injury to Devontae Adams? He's just with the Jets now, and he's still not playing well. So I love too that like he's had a bad couple weeks. Like loses to the Steelers, gets traded, loses to the Steelers. Like that's bad. That's a bad couple weeks.
That's good. That reminds me of the Kadarius Toney ending up on IR because he lost his hands thing from last year. That was pretty good. First NFL wide receiver to play the position without any hands. That kind of thing's pretty good.
Did you see the one where they said that he put his house up for sale in Kansas City and it was the blue tent?
That's so good.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Aaron Rodgers, the AI video that came out at the press conference talking about all his receivers and how like they're just awful, and he's like throwing everyone under the bus. He's like, frick, he's like, we got Mike Williams out there. He's like looking like Kadarius Toney. He's like, can't catch a thing. He's costing us. Like he's going through I gotta find it. It's so funny. Like just obviously it's fake, but it's worth a laugh. Matt, you look like you're gonna say something there.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's all right. Look, everybody's having some wireless issues, but that's okay. Russ is apparently cooking again. I don't know if it's just for one game or not, but man, the Steelers looked all right. What did you guys think?
I think when you have that defense, the Steelers can always look all right. I don't think they don't touch Baltimore in that division, but I think they could be an upsetter in the long run this season. I don't know if I trust that, Russ is the dude, but he did look good, and his receivers seemed to be more interested in playing for him with a couple circus type catches. But I don't know if that's a Russ thing or not. But I can tell you that his press conference was so hard to watch after.
Yeah, he's
a fun guy to watch play, but my goodness, could you be more cringy?
Yeah, it's a bit much. And like you would think he would watch it over and be like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that next time. But he's been that way for a while. Like he needs like a PR person, I think.
He's been like that his whole career.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He needs a PR person. He needs to dial that in.
Yeah, he's always been like a bit of an odd duck, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The Steelers, I mean, unfortunately, they seem to look really, really good right now. Like, Russ was okay for me. He wasn't incredible. Like I thought, like Matt said, the receivers, even a guy like Freiermuth, they looked like they wanted to play. Their running game was going at a level that we haven't seen in a long time. Like I can't remember the last time Najee Harris broke 100 yards rushing.
I'll tell
so
you when I told you he was a sleeper.
It was his sophomore season of college.
Yeah. But so they've got the running game going. They put up a lot of points on a Jets defense that's actually really tough to battle against. And like Matt said, that defense is just the nastiest defense in the entire NFL. And it hurts me to say that because that's what the AFC North has been known for. That's what Baltimore has been known for. And the Steelers have that like mean, nasty, like just we're going to punch you in the mouth and we're going to laugh at you while we do it. And I really wish my team had that, but I've got other things going for me, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got that Lamar guy and the Derrick Henry guy and Rashad Bateman. Can't forget about Rashad Bateman.
The Batman.
You just can't. He's just a superstar. And Nelson Aguilar. And Mark Andrews is back. So really, half the game for the Baltimore Ravens is doing it.
I give a lot of credit to Ted on that one because really Andrews had done nothing. And then right before the end of our show a couple of weeks ago, Ted was like, hold on, before we go, what do we do with Mark Andrews? And we had that little like hash out of like what we would do with Mark Andrews. He's looked like the old Mark Andrews since Ted said that. So big shout out to Ted for the Fijian vibes. Only good vibes.
What do you know, Ted? What do you know? Do you have an inside track
like
or something?
Steve said, I only know about good vibes. That's all I bring. I bring him to the people who deserve him. Andrews is on my football team. Needed him to buck up and start playing better.
Can you talk about Cade Otton for me next?
Week, but I will not be speaking about any other tight ends. No.
So not Cade Otton. Are you sure? Could have used speaking him into existence yesterday would have been nice, but still won. But man,
Cade Otton, didn't he have like 90 yards?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think he had 90 or 100 yards last night.
I don't think so. That can't be right.
No, I'm like 90% sure of that.
Who is that?
I'm 91% sure, which I think is the amount of yards he had.
Well, he finished
91% sure he had 90 yards.
He finished strong, so that's good. Yeah, he was sucking until the last quarter.
So how many did he have?
He had 12 fantasy points. So
yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about your terrible tight end play.
Yeah.
See, that's just you. That's just you're asking for guys that are playing well to play better. That's just greed. That's going to hurt you, Ryan.
Yeah, that's how you get injured. You're asking for too much money.
I'm 3-4. Shut up,
Ryan Ayuk.
Ryan. I want more wins. Oh, there goes your Achilles. Sorry, bro. Oh my gosh. We're gonna change it up. We're gonna change up our order today so that we can fit in all the fantasy football stuff that everybody came in to chat about. So, without further ado, let's get to the actual segment that started it all. I'm talking about THNOs stars. I got rid of a song, so I got to make my own version of it now. Who really wants to go first? I think Matt does want to go first.
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay, that's awesome. Appreciate it.
My THNOs stars Jonnu Smith. Highly touted player who has never really lived up to his expectations. Took him 7 years, but he finally had his breakout game, which was kind of shocking given the quarterback situation that team has and the offensive situation that team has and the fact that they scored 10 points total. But he not only had some chunk pieces, but he had a bunch of targets kind of out of nowhere. That's a dude that had I think a 7. Oh, you good?
Yeah.
I think Sleeper had him 7% owned and 1% started.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but wild thinking about the tight end spot as we're talking about Cade Otton. That game catapulted him to 15th overall for tight end scoring this year with a 17 point pickup.
which is interesting because tight ends have actually been targeted a fair amount so far. So, but
and many of them were terrible at the start of the season too. Like it's been tough work finding a solid starting tight end if you didn't have Kittle right off the bat. Andrews was hurting, and Njoku went out early. There's all these guys that were supposed to put up decent points to start the year, and it's been just a salvage pit. Just lately, these guys are starting to come back now and putting up decent numbers.
Speaking of tough going, I was looking for clips for the show this week, and it was next to impossible to find a clip for a lot of these guys this week. I don't know why. It's just like I was searching high and low to find a few of these ones, but thankfully I did. So without further ado, THNO Smith.
Huntley checks it short. THNO Smith through the 5 and into the end zone for the touchdown. He picked through all kinds of traffic and found 6 at the end.
Thought Tua was having a seizure or something there. He wasn't. He wasn't. Come on, man. He's got to stop playing. Let's be honest with ourselves here. I can joke.
Honestly, when you look at that Dolphins team, Tua might even be back this year. Let's be realistic. You had THNO Smith, like Matt is saying, had a career year for 96 or a game for 7 receptions, 96 yards. The second leading guy for yards on the Miami Dolphins, since we're talking fantasy football, is not Tyreek Hill. It is not Jalen Waddle. It is not Devin Achane. Alec Ingold, the fullback, had one reception, 25 yards. I'm looking at it right now.
THNO start from week 5, I think.
Tyreek Hill had 1 catch for 8 yards. Jalen Waddle had 1 catch for 11 yards. HN had 2 catches for 8 yards. Malik Washington had 2 catches for 9 yards. This team, like, we came into the season and people were picking Dolphins like left, right, and center because they were the track star team, and like you were going to hedge your bets on that. And now you've got these players, and you're like, my season's done. Like, if these guys don't pull it back together, those Tyreek Hill owners, those Jalen Waddle owners, like they're just done. They can't. Like, I have no idea what's going on because there was so much talk of, a couple of years ago about Tyler Huntley being the quarterback that was going to, essentially take over Lamar's job, and you were going to trade Lamar and get all these picks from him, and Tyler Huntley was going to be the answer because you were going to surround him with things.
That's right.
Well, guess
I remember
what?
that. Yeah.
Tyler Huntley is surrounded by more talent than you can imagine, and he's doing nothing with it. So there was your answer. Full circle moment. Tyler Huntley, super awesome dude, is not that guy.
Joke's on you, people.
How the turntables.
Exactly. Steve, keep going, man. Yeah. Steve, keep going. You're hot.
I am a little warm. It's a little warm in this house. But if you want me to get fired up, let's talk about 2 people that help absolutely nobody in real football and fantasy football. Let's go back to those pesky Steelers. And this is the first time I have ever picked 2 THNO stars because you have Van Jefferson and Russell Wilson at a combined 5% start rate for both of them. These 2 Steelers help nobody. And in the football world, we don't care because they're also Steelers. I can't say what I actually wanted to and what I text the group, but we all know what it is. The Steelers time.
Yeah, it's this one. I laughed and I said, you know what? Normally, we're not going to allow 2, but this is just too good because they combined for a THNO. So really, it's like a super THNO.
Wilson fires end zone touchdown. Van Jefferson.
And they highlight Russ.
All I could hear was Ryan being like, Van Jefferson, I told you 4 years ago that Van Jefferson would score a touchdown in the next 4 seasons. What? What up? Oh, Van Jefferson. He's back, baby. Nicole Hardman. Van Jefferson in the house.
Van Jefferson's a former Sean McVay player, so that's not really that surprising that he'd be touting for him.
Man,
anyone who's ever got the ball.
I'm all about the Sean McVay crew. Yeah, I was. That's my crew, man. That's who I'll roll with. What can I say? Van Jefferson, yeah, touchdowns. I laughed and I'm like, oh, geez, he's going to be on the show. It was just one of those moments, much like the moment that I'm about to talk to you guys about. You know who I'm going to pick. He probably helped no one unless you actually have followed my advice this season. He is indeed a 0% owned, 0% started. The real question is, where does he slot in for the Bucks, folks? I'm talking about Mecole Hardman. I had a pick, and as soon as he scored, you better believe I changed it to my boy. Because, when things are looking that bad, you got to pick your star. So here's my boy.
Is it down like Coach Reed does?
Oh, a little sweep. Hardman, no one near him, makes a cut. Racing to the end zone. He's in. Touchdown. The icing on the cake to Mecole Hardman.
Dude's a boss. I mean, he grinded that touchdown, but 0%. He ain't helping anybody. That was a fun game. If anybody did watch that one, Niners and Chiefs, that first quarter was chaos. There were picks, there were fumbles, there was a little bit of everything. I thought it was going to end 3-0, and then the Chiefs really took over mid second quarter. But yeah, if you guys watched that one, it was actually a lot of fun until it wasn't. Just saying. Teddy, what you got? Ted, who do you got?
Oh, sorry. I'm getting like crazy delay in feedback here, so I don't know.
Okay.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give what I got here, and then I'll probably dip out because I can't even understand anything anybody's saying. I'm not sure if you guys are even hearing me right now. My THNO for this week is going to be Cedric Tillman, 12 points. He managed to pick up if you're in half PPR leagues, 16 points if you're in a full PPR league, and didn't even score a touchdown in this game. Pretty crazy numbers. Had an absolute ton of targets, 8 receptions, 82 yards receiving. No Amari Cooper in this game. Obviously, it's life after Amari now. Deshaun Watson goes out. The backups come in, DTR, Jameis Winston, and all they do is throw at the big 6'3" receiver. Somebody's got to get the ball down here. Certainly wasn't expecting it to be Tillman, who wasn't even sitting there as a starter. But yeah, he managed to do something with a team that has done almost nothing with fantasy relevance this year. So without a touchdown, a rarity in a THNO star, I'm going to give this one to Cedric Tillman.
Are you sure? Didn't he score a touchdown, or do I have the wrong game here?
I'm pretty sure you got the wrong game because I don't think
We're just going to show him scoring a touchdown.
And you're going to have to go for 2. The theory is you go for it on the first touchdown.
See, if you just wait there, he says you're going to have to go for 2. That's a 2-point conversion, Ryan.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, that's why I couldn't find a touchdown of him this week because it was.
So yeah, if your league counted special teams or 2-point conversion points as a score, then you would have been a 18-point receiver. So that's a big number for a guy that didn't score a TD in a game and nobody started. I think he was started in. It says here that he's 3% rostered and 1% started. That certainly wasn't his numbers last week. It was 0 and 0. But yeah, that's a big game for a guy who wasn't projected to get the ball at all.
Well, somebody's got to get the ball, so it's only fair. You guys want to get into starts? You ready? Time for sneaky starts. Well, I was going to just go right to Ted, but I guess not. Matt, who do you have your sneaky start this week?
Because we're in a complete cluster of receiver problems, we're going to have to start doing some real sneaky sneaks. My boy Bubber Tamines got picked from me last week.
Don't worry, you didn't miss much.
Somebody's scooping him. So I picked up Mason Tipton just to make sure Bubbert got beat by someone. And it turns out Mason Tipton had 9 targets. So if the Saints are going to continue having receiver problems and Taysom Hill being out and needing to look at those 2 and 3 receiver or 3 and 4 receivers in this case, I'm going to stay on the completely random Saints train and go Mason Tipton for my sneaky start this week.
Well, what did I pick him up?
If you're 100 acres woods, yep. After I told you guys.
Well, I was going to pick him anyway. He had like 4.5. Like that's not even worth having in your roster. I was going on the hot hand, and he sucked. So you didn't miss much. You're probably going to end up being better than me at some point. So I don't apologize. I'm just saying you'll probably end up winning. So don't worry about it.
I'm 6-1. I'm already better than you at one point.
Thank you.
Now, Matt has just, brought up old Rubber Bub. I do have to, give credit where credit is due. And I said to you guys, even if you two were the only two to pick up Bub Means in the league, there is no way he is getting picked up in over 2% of the leagues. And boy, was I wrong.
3%?
Sleeper has him at 28% rostered and 12% started. So ha to all you losers who picked up Bub Means and you got your 3.7 points out of him. I don't know why you listen to Ryan.
I'm
Matt
a
got
pretty
dragged
face.
into this one, but I don't know what you guys are thinking.
I'm a pretty face. People can't help it.
But you know what? I blame Matt. Normally I blame Ryan for a lot of things, but when you give a guy a nickname like Rubber Bub, like people are just going to pick him up. And the fact that Ryan's like, hold on a second, I think it's Gerard, isn't it? No, his real name's Rubber. And you see Ryan just frantically on his phone, like there's no way this dude's real name is Rubber.
I keep typing it in, it just doesn't show up. It's so weird. Oh man, that brings back good memories. Thanks. Yeah, we're doing starts. There you go.
Are you doing ads or
starts right now? Still starts.
Okay,
so you're up. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, my start is really out of necessity, and I'm kind of shocked that the number's this low. Ricky Pearsall, chest shot guy at just 25% rostered. I think this is an option for a sleepy ad. We don't have him as a sleepy ad, so I'm not stealing anyone's stuff. But just at 2% started, it makes a lot of sense to have him here. We know that Ayuk is done for the year. We didn't know that last week. Debo is banged up all the time, it seems, right? Like if you watch
pneumonia.
Whatever it is, right? It just seems to be following him. If you watched his time on the Netflix show Receiver, he was battling that shoulder that just kept going on. He just seems, and this is his physical style of play and how they're using him as a running back sometimes, but he's kind of nicked up all the time. So my boy from earlier in the year, Jawan Jennings, he's going to get some carries if he can, suit up. But Ricky Pearsall is a former first round pick. And, he made his NFL debut. Here's where I think you need to start him. He had 76% snap share and 5 targets thrown his way in this game. So he didn't put up a ton of crazy numbers, but his stock is rising. And he's a guy that is going to get more comfortable in this offense. His number is going to be called all the time. Kittle's going to be called all the time. They're going to use the running game. They're going to, Shanahan is going to use those kind of lesser known wide receivers, but someone's got to fill Ayuk's target share, and they're going to give this first round kid a look. I'm starting him. I think it was us that said last week, someone said when you have a guy coming off of injury, you usually give it like a game 2 buffer before you start him. I'm not giving the buffer thing at all. I am starting Pearsall from here on out, at least in a flex spot. But I think he has kind of like that upside wide receiver 2 potential even in his rookie year. So Ricky Pearsall.
His nickname is Lil Dicky.
Is it actually?
Pretty sure. I don't know. Could be.
Matt, fact check that one.
Yeah. It's right under Rubber. Don't worry.
Rubber Little Dicky.
Rubber Dicky. That's good. Ted, who's your start, man?
I'm going back to San Francisco, and like Steve, I'm jumping on the Ayuk is hurt bandwagon. And if it wasn't Pearsall, it was going to be Jawan Jennings for this one. And I think for a lot of those same reasons. I think the difference between Pearsall and Jennings is that Steve's right. He hit the nail on the head. You're looking at a higher potential player. I think you're looking at a higher floor with a guy like Jennings. So I think this is a guy, one or the other, I think is going to get, a serious amount of playing time. In fact, it could be both these guys moving forward. But you could probably look at slotting these guys in as either a flex or a wide receiver 3 for the rest of the season. And the way that San Francisco runs their offense, it's very possible. The difference between Pearsall and Jennings is that Jennings has a bit of a track record in this offense. He's got a bit of cred. He's dangerous in the red zone. He's got a couple of top 36 finishes this year in wide receivers. He's looking at 19% of the snap share right off the bat. Sat out last week, was hurt. Again, like Steve, I'm not looking at that buffer heading into this week. I'm going to start this guy right away. And if it wasn't Pearsall, then I'd be starting Jennings. And if it's not Jennings, then I'm starting Pearsall. And if you don't have one of these guys on your roster, you better push to get them now. Currently, I mean, just a little bit more than Pearsall. He's owned in only 5% of leagues. This is way too low of a number. You got to get this guy on your roster, get him started, get one of these guys in at all costs, because one of them is going to hit the jackpot here, and the other I still think is going to turn out to be a serviceable receiver moving forward.
And they're changing their offense, right? Now that you've lost Ayuk, McCaffrey's still not back. Like the game plan has to change a little bit. Like, who's getting the ball? Well, they've lost the guy, so it has to change a little bit.
The game plan changes when you don't have CMC or Debo. Those are the two guys that change your game plan because of how dynamic they are. I think you just throw other receivers in the case of an Ayuk.
Technically, they don't. And I just fact checked this. It isn't Lil Dicky. It's Slick Rick is his name, which is about the whitest nickname for a guy.
I think somebody should just fact check his fact check just in case.
Yeah, it's on NBC Sports Bay Area, so it has to be true. Has to be.
Here's where I disagree with that. And like, obviously to a degree, we're absolutely true. Like CMC, when you lose a guy like that, you're going to distribute the ball other ways, right? Like, you're not going to give, even if it's Jordan Mason, you're not going to let him have that same volume, or like the dual wide receivers. Where I think that it doesn't actually change the game plan is the Shanahan tree, the Shanahan offense. And like, Ryan, you should be all over this because of your LA ties, right? When one of these guys goes down, the McVays, the LaFleurs, the Shanahans, they just put in the next person to run the system. It's why the system is so successful. It doesn't matter the name on the back of the jersey. It's just put a guy in, and we're going to draft people that fit my system. And they're so frustrating as fantasy football players to follow those teams, because it's like, oh, great, Ayuk's out. Like, who's going to be the next guy? They've got like 6 of them. Like, they're not all dressed all the time.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, like Ted says, they have so many of these mold guys. Jawan Jennings, 6'3", 220. Ricky Pearsall, 6'3", like 195, 200. Like, they all have that like Ayuk mold to them, because it's like, well, if we lose a guy, we just have the next one just sitting there, and we don't change the game plan. We don't change the scheme. We just run the same thing with a different nameplate on the back. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at one other team in this league that's done the same thing and who's had a ton of success just filtering in receivers, look no further than the Rams, and it's the same idea, right? Just these guys are plug and play. They all start. Some of these guys are veterans that have been around for a long time, but just put them in your lineup.
Speaking of, sounds like Cousin Puka is coming off the IR as Mike Evans goes down. So it's a net zero for Ryan's fantasy team. And apparently the betting favorite is Cooper Kupp is going to the Chefs, which is good for no one. Really bad.
Actually. I mean, it would be good for your fantasy football team.
That's about it.
Terrible for football.
Yeah.
You have Kupp.
I don't know. I had him one time.
Didn't you trade Cooper Kupp for like Greg Dortch or something like that?
And
this week, I might add,
and Brandon Aubrey.
Let's you guys put some respect on that name. My sneaky start this week. Keon Coleman is now invisible to defenders. Amari Cooper has the spotlight. Seattle is going to face Josh Allen, who runs and throws. I believe they call that a dual threat. And Coleman has surged up the charts in his rookie campaign. Snap share, check. Yardage, check. Opportunity, check. Dominic Hasek, check. You're going to want to have Keon Coleman in your lineup this week. I got a good feeling about it. Things are looking good over in Buffalo. Make it happen. Short and sweet. Get him in your lineup. Go Buffalo Bills.
Well, the getting's good.
Yeah, exactly. Short and sweet. That's all I got. Sometimes I got a long-winded one, but I don't on this one. Just go start him. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be fun. You're going to get points, and you're going to thank me. Let's get into sleepy ads because it's nighttime and some people sleep. Matt, who is your sleepy ad for this week?
My sleepy ad is Jalen McMillan, which would have been a sleepy ad like 6 hours ago, but probably tripled or quadrupled his ad numbers by now. Rookie, long-bodied, super fast, ran a couple real nice routes yesterday. One went through his hands, one was overthrown, but with no Evans there. Baker is Baker, so he's going to throw some picks here and there, but he's still throwing for 300 yards a game and putting 3 touchdowns in. So just based on looks alone and opportunity with obviously Evans and Godwin there, I'd be picking him up. He could be a sleepy start or a sleepy ad in this case.
6% owned as of right now. Just saying,
that number is going to skyrocket.
Get on it, guys. Get on it. Just saying, that's a good pick, Matt. Let's get on it. 6% owned. Listen to the man with the beard. So, Ted, who do you got?
I think you're talking to me. So if I'm going for a sleepy ad this week, I'm going to go right back to the well with this one and take Cedric Tillman. He was a guy we had on this list last year that showed up as a sleepy ad and had like a decent game or two. He's still a project player for the Browns. They really like him. Amari Cooper's gone. Really the only guy on that roster in the receiving corps that can fit in for those contested catches. He showed last week, obviously, that if he's getting the ball and he's going to get some targets, that he can do this. I think there's other receivers there, right? I mean, we have Jerry Jeudy. We're looking at Moore, but I think we all know what Moore is at this point, or at least in this offense. And Judy's going to fit into that role, and he's going to have to be the number one. And I don't even know if he's capable of doing that. So aside from Njoku, I feel like is the real, like the only real receiving threat on this roster. I would put my money on hedging a bet at the bottom of your roster on a guy like Cedric Tillman, and then just see how this thing shakes out over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a quarterback change. It might look a little bit more like it was when Flacco was here, how they were trying to run that offense for a guy who's going to sling the ball a little bit versus holding on to it forever. It's a little bit of a addition by subtraction thing with Watson being out. They're a bad football team, but there's still some players that can produce fantasy points here, and possibly they even have a run game back with Nick Chubb making his return. So, yeah, Cedric Tillman's going to be the guy that'll make a pickup this week. He's only on 3% of rosters right now. He's being started in 1%. There's lots of opportunity to get him. Might be looking at like 2-3% of your fab bucks to get this player, but it could be a real sneaky ad, like to the truest extent.
Like sneaky? I'm just assuming he's waiting on it. Like sneaky is what I said. Tutu Atwell, 21% owned, 8% started. Cooper Kupp is still out, but he's going to be gone, so who cares? Puka is going to be coming back, but he isn't officially yet. So they're still banged up on the wideout part of the ball. Inevitably, the ball needs to go somewhere. Buddy's snap share is rising. Andre Rison. No, wait, that's Rison. That's what I had written here. They've got Mini, Seattle, then the lowly Finns. Could be fun if the bye weeks are creeping up on you. Tutu Atwell, big fan of their offense, big fan of their coach. No surprises here. No surprises at all. I mean, we've talked about Tutu on this show a few times. Your Tutus and your Pukas, I believe, was the name of that episode last season. So just give it a try. I mean, put him on your roster. If they do trade Cooper Kupp, obviously, then he's going to be elevated up in the depth chart. So this might be a sleepy/sneaky ad if you can combine the terms. So that's what I have to say. Steve?
It's kind of funny. We all picked sleepy ads that more likely are like going to be sneaky starts just based on availability. I wasn't even looking at this, but this is pretty funny. I put my ads in about 45 minutes ago. I'm going to Tampa Bay as well. This is the second week in a row where Matt and I are telling you to pick up a wide receiver from a team that injuries spark opportunities, right? And so my ad, and probably a start as well, is going to be Trey Palmer, right? When KC had all their injuries, Tampa is facing the same thing. If you were watching the game yesterday, you know that Cade Otton looks to be the guy that's going to get a lot of those targets gone his way. So if you got the Cade Otton stock or you have him, it's looking like a real, I mean, what did Matt say? Someone went from like nothing to one touchdown puts you in the top 15 for tight ends. Cade Otton is going to be a top 5 tight end at the end of the year easily, if not within a couple weeks. So you basically just have to roll the dice on one of these Bucks wide receivers. A lot of you are going to go to McMillan and follow Matt's advice. I think it's a smart advice. The reason why I would pick Trey Palmer instead is if you look at his trends based on how he was used and then when an opportunity came up. So in weeks 1 to 4, he had 31, 21, 21, and 14% snap share. And then against Baltimore, he had 72% snap share. So what that tells me is when those two big workhorses went out, or at least one did, the opportunity came up for him. Now, he only caught the ball once for 16 yards, but he's going to be on the field a ton. They're playing the Falcons. Like Matt said, Baker is Baker, and he's going to throw the ball. I think Trey Palmer gets a score, and I actually think he's going to catch 5 balls for 71 yards. That's my prediction.
An actual number prediction this time around. Love it.
Well, he's known for that. So he's been. You were close. There was one last year where we tipped our cap.
Like almost exactly.
Yeah. So Steve doesn't throw out numbers unless he believes in it. So I believe in you.
I
Steve.
literally came up with that 17 seconds ago. So,
but you believe in it. It's a conviction. So that's Sleepy Ads. We do have time for the other new segment of the show. We're gonna cycle this probably in and out throughout the season going forward, just so we can make sure we get all of our fantasy stuff to you guys first, so you guys know what this is all about. Remember the name?
What is your name?
My name is,
You know my. It doesn't matter what your name is.
It's good every single time. We're going to take advantage of Ted's microphone. So, Ted, who is your first name this week?
Yeah. Do you remember Matt Jones, Jacksonville Jaguar, first round draft pick, 2005, 21st overall? Arkansas quarterback, one of those guys that made the position change back in the day. Did really well in the combine, ran a 4.4 at like 6'6". Actually held the Southeastern Conference record for rushing yards by a quarterback that was later broken by some guy named Tim Tebow. Anyways, went on to get drafted. I was selected over a couple of picks before a guy like Roddy White, 6 picks before some guy named Aaron Rodgers. He ended up playing 4 seasons in the league, 166 passes caught, 2,153 yards and 15 touchdowns. He does have 1 or 2 like highlight reel plays for a guy that was a freak, but ran into some troubles with his off the field stuff, and the Jags ended up releasing him. But if you did remember Matt Jones, he was one of those freaky guys that came out of the draft and didn't really end up amounting to much.
Love it. Matt, do you want to steal the show, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
This isn't a show stealer. It's one of my all-time favorites. Champ Bailey. You should remember his name. But I often think about how fortunate we are to have lived in an era of those defensive backs, safeties that were in that era. The Reeds, the Palomalos, the Champs. Like that 10 years was obscene. I know Revis was a little bit after that, same as Sherman maybe, but like there was no stronger pick of Hall of Fame kind of dudes having to cover receivers than there was in that kind of mid 2000s to late 2000s. So
And they were like electric, right? Like I know I can't remember what week it was, but Nnamdi Asomugha would have been in that same group of corners, and like I'm thinking back to like Asante Samuel time where anytime the ball was in the air, you're like, oh, Asante might pick this, and he would just be flying all over the field, right?
Bob Sanders, same thing. Balls in the air, you might lose your head. Yeah, that was a fun.
You might lose your head, or he was going to be injured for the season.
Yeah, either way, someone's head is losing. Yeah, that's my dude.
Yeah, it's bad when like you see a guy like Champ Bailey get like, over the course of the season look like maybe 13 balls thrown his way in the first like, half the season being played. Like they're not even going to attempt to come at him. Corner number 2 is getting an absolute boatload worth of work because they can't get away from Champ Bailey. Just crazy stuff.
And that's why those guys were always, they were definitely the loudmouths. They wanted to get paid because those were the guys that stood up and like, there's a reason I deserve to get paid because they're not thrown at me. And if they are, I'm going to make you pay for it. Like, Revis was a big one. Like there's been a lot of those guys. There's a reason that they did get paid is because the ball didn't come their way a whole lot. So good pick, man.
Even statistically, looking at some of Bailey's seasons, statistically, some of his worst seasons were his best seasons because he didn't have balls thrown at him to put up production. Like wild stuff.
Good choice. I'm going to go next. This guy played, I'm looking at his years of college. From 2018 to 2021, he was in Indiana. He was a Hoosier. Then he went over to the Huskies where he was in the national championship. We all remember that. And then the Atlanta Falcons picked him, and he got his first official pass this past weekend after the game was out of hand. I'm talking about Michael Penix Jr. Could have a career. It was interesting after they went Kirk Cousins mode, and then was it Cousins? And then, because the draft happened first, right? So then they drafted and then got Kirk Cousins. So interesting scenario out in Atlanta, but I think he'll be okay. We've all seen that works out one way or another for quarterbacks. So hopefully, Michael Penix Jr. is my first name. Steve, who you got?
I actually had somebody completely different, but as Matt was talking about kind of that mid 2000s to late like into 2010, and we're talking about corners, and I was talking about Asomugha and Asante Samuel. I couldn't help but remember a name just off the top of my head, and I had to make sure this was actually true because I kind of forgot about him. But he was like one of the biggest 2-year wonders ever. Jason Babin. You remember who Jason Babin was? Pretty much did nothing, and nothing in his career. 4 sacks here, 2 sacks there, 5 sacks there. Went to Tennessee, got 12.5 sacks, then went to Philly the year after and got 18 sacks and put up no more than 7.5 for the rest of his career. I just remember him that one year, I think it was the 2011 year, where he put up 18 sacks, and you were like, who is this guy? Like, why is he almost breaking Strahan's record just completely out of nowhere? So Jason Babin also ended his career with the Ravens. 2015, spent 2 games and then just was done with football.
Pissed off. Cool.
Pissed off.
Ted, who's number 2 for you?
I'm going to go to the Raiders for one Darius Hayward Bay. He of the 4.3 40, another combine beast, drafted just ahead of guys like Michael Crabtree, notoriously, and Jeremy Maclin was another one. Ended up collecting 11 touchdown passes, went for just over 2,000 yards, was in the league just a couple of years coming out of Baltimore, Maryland, but never really amounted for much for a guy that could absolutely burn. But that'll be my pick, Darius Hayward Bay.
Awesome pick. I love it. I just love where you went with it. Just super awesome. Who you got?
My theme is AFC West defensive backs. This guy, I didn't know this. Surprisingly, didn't know that he suffers from equinophobia, which is the fear of horses.
Don't we all?
But 3-time first team All Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. I think maybe a dude that on
just a second.
Can we just slow down on the serious train for a second? Like, you can't just say like, "Oh yeah, I don't even know what the word is, and I'm an English teacher." Like, "Oh, did you know that that's a fear of horses?" Let me just give you some serious information here.
So let me read this for you. Barry suffers from equinophobia. Okay, so it's Eric Barry. Fear of horses. This condition was frequently brought on by the Kansas City Chiefs mascot Warpaint. So he has a fear of horses and mascots.
Oh my god.
Anyways, I think maybe in a soft Hall of Fame year, 2010s all decades, 3 first team All Pros, 5 Pro Bowls, a comeback player of the year due to him having stomach cancer, and then coming back and tearing his Achilles and coming back again. Eric Berry was dope. He was one of those shut down corner guys who could hit hard. Not a ton of like flashy stats in terms of picks and that sort of thing, but one of the best open field tacklers maybe ever in that type of position, because we all know corners usually don't tackle all that well.
Make business decisions.
Yeah, exactly. So Eric Berry.
Love it.
You know who Eric Berry like a modern day player that Eric Berry, I was just thinking of this, Kyle Hamilton. That guy who played strong safety, who is going to take you out hard. And I mean, he did in yesterday's game, but he can also like a sure tackler. He's going to come up with a pick if he needs to. He can go like blitz the quarterback. Eric Berry's such a dope pick.
Yeah, reminds me same thing in the same like a similar mold, like a Weddle, right? I mean, same kind of guy, just absolutely ferocious, but like a sure tackler. Just stick to you like glue. Those are fun guys to watch, but Barry was a freak.
Way to go, Matt. I'm going to go next here. This guy, he was the first rookie kicker to win Special Teams Player of the Week award for 2 different teams, let alone in 2 different conferences. He's played for a handful of NFL teams. He has a pretty cool nickname, Dicker the Kicker. He did go undrafted, but was signed as an undrafted free agent by the LA Rams. He was later signed by the Ravens and waived 2 days later. They just couldn't handle all that man. And then went from Philly, and now he's a superstar. Signed a 4-year, like, dude's a kicker. And this blew me away when he signed this 4-year, $22 million to kick a bloody football. I'm talking about Cameron Dicker the Kicker.
That ain't no idiot kicker.
I thought it was Slick Rick, the Little Dicker.
Little Dicky Ricky, Little Dicky Rubber Dicky. Just before we go, does anyone have a third one? Because I have a third one.
You go ahead.
I mean, I mean, there's always third ones. There's always
okay.
Third ones.
Well, we'll let Steve go on his, and then if you got a third one, you can fire away. Steve,
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of playing around. I don't really know what I'm doing this week because I had 2 people, and then as you guys were talking, I'm like, no, that brought up a different name, so I'm going off the board here. I have 2 guys from that same Philadelphia Eagles team. That Eagles team that had Shady McCoy, that had Deshaun Jackson, that had Jeremy Maclin. Those were the guys that you wanted to get in 2011 with Mike Vick. But there was 2 kind of underrated guys that I don't want to say they bothered me, but it was like, because you had 2 speedsters, these guys were, if we had a show back then, these would have been guys that you're like, you need to go add this guy, you need to go start this guy because he's going to be a serviceable guy. It's not Darren Sproles. I'm talking about Jason Avant and Brent Selleck.
Jason Avant. Oh,
Jason
there's
Avant.
exciting.
Yeah, kind of a journeyman guy, 300 yards here, 400 or 500 yards. Never eclipsed 700 yards, but he was just kind of always one of those guys where, he would have been like your low flex start, maybe a bye week pickup kind of thing. And Brent Selleck, I honestly just kind of forgot about what he did a whole lot. Again, never eclipsed 1,000 yards or anything like that. But in that 2011 season, he had almost 1,000 yards. They kind of remind me of maybe what the Miami Dolphins were last year. There's just so many pieces. You're like, who do I pick up? Do I pick up, a running back? Do I pick up the tight end? Do I pick up a couple wide receivers? So Jason Avant and Brent Selleck.
Man, Jason Avant was like Mr. Waiver Wire. Like the dude probably had like rashes all over his arms from the amount of people that picked him up and put him back down. I can remember so many occasions picking him up. And then, oh, dude, like that guy like lived on their waiver wire. Like he had a villa, he had the whole thing, he had the margarita machine. That guy was just like an absolute star. Like he worked in a pinch, but you were never going to start him more than a week. And you always looked like, should I keep him? Like, I can afford to drop him. Nobody else is going to have him. And he was usually there when you needed him. And occasionally you're upset when you saw him get picked up. But that's a good pick. I like that one. That brings back memories. It's good. That's good. Did anybody do you want me to start on my third one? I've got a quick third one.
Yeah, you go, and then I'll drop one more.
Yeah, I got one too.
So my third one, absolute legend for the Chicago Bears. Defensive player this guy, unbelievable. I didn't really get to see him play football, unfortunately, but he's got a name that might as well have been a nickname. But no, I'm not talking about Mike Ditka. I'm talking about Dick Butkus. So phenomenal, part of the legendary Chicago Bears teams. But you guys are probably thinking, like, obviously, you guys think you know what my theme is, but you're so wrong. Like, let's get our minds out of the gutters. Obviously, now they were in different conferences in college, but Dick Butkus was a two-time first team All Big Ten and second team All Big Ten, whereas Dicker and Penix Jr. were first team Pac-12s or second team Pac-12 guys. So corresponding awards, different conferences. So I don't know what you guys thought it might have been. Fun fact though about Penix Jr. and Dicker, they were born 2 days apart in 2000, May 6th and May 8th. Go figure. Fun facts all around over here. Fun facts. Yeah. Who wants to go? It's not Steve. Don't be rude. I obviously said it was second team all conference for Pac-12 and Big Ten.
Former Hawaii Rainbow Warrior Ashley Lele, to continue with the AFC West theme. Not a corner, not a defensive player. He had 1 year with 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Just cool, At the time, there weren't very many Hawaiian dudes there. He's actually not Hawaiian. He's born in California, but
he's not Hawaiian at all.
He went to high school in Hawaii. He did go to high school and university, so it's basically the same thing. He's not a Howley. But yeah, I remember Ashley Lele being that dude that was supposed to break out, and he did kind of one season, and then he didn't anymore. He went down to like 500 yards, 2 touchdowns. But yeah, there you go.
Imagine that being awful, hey? Like you think about like 500 yards, it's still a lot of yards, a couple touchdowns, and we're calling this guy a bust. Still pretty impressive. Or is that for the rest of his career? That's how many he had.
No, he had it every year. He was a third receiver for his whole career. Like he carved out a good career, just not a great one.
They're not all greats. Ted, who you got?
Well, maybe Matt knows who this one is before I can finish reading it off, but basically the Vikings traded Randy Moss and we're looking for some guy to replicate downfield targets with speed. And they picked up this guy who was also a warrior in the combine, and this guy was fast. They ended up taking him in first round, 7th overall. But he had the dropsies. He was a bit of a Kadarius Toney type, and he failed to hang on with Minnesota. He lasted like 3 seasons, caught like 80 passes, like 167 targets, 3 touchdowns. and ended up getting shipped to the Jags of all places to go play football with Matt Jones, who got called earlier in this list. But Matt, do you know who I'm talking about?
It's only Viking turned Jag I can think of as Toby Gerhart, but we did Toby Gerhart already.
No, that's good. But this guy was Troy Williamson, and also ran a 4.32 in the combine, and was a bit of a freak himself. So just never panned out. And definitely wasn't Randy Moss.
No, you said Randy Moss, and I went Sidney Rice immediately.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You could just read even the text chat. That would work too.
Oh, yeah, Sidney Rice. Yeah, that was a fun
Steve,
one.
who do you got as your last one?
I already gave you 3. You were paying
Did you?
attention.
He gave us 4, actually.
Dang. Oh, yeah, you did. That's right.
2 for on the end.
Well, no, I only
everybody-
gave you. I think I gave you Jason Babin, and then I gave you the twofer. But
Oh, I thought you had another one.
I was pretty sure he's got one left.
Go for it.
I thought you gave
you know
a third
what?
one. Oh, yeah, give another one.
I'm a man.
We
of
make the
people,
rules here.
So, I just, this is the segment I hate the most, and you're putting me on the spot. So I'm gonna go back to that 2011 Eagles team when, fun fact, Jason Kelce was a rookie, and this other starting lineman was right beside him on the right line. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I didn't hear
All-
that because you're delayed, but I'm sure it's a good one.
All Canadian boy. Maybe
Oh,
has some ties to Kelowna.
Wes K, the firefighter.
West K firefighter Danny Watkins.
Danny Watkins. That dude got paid. He's doing
Good for
okay.
him.
Or didn't he go back to firefighting?
Yeah.
Imagine getting to play in the NFL and just like, I'm just going to go back to doing a normal job. Cool. Good old Danny Watkins.
We got to ask our
Anything?
boy Kyle Patchell about that one.
Maybe
We could, yeah.
a
No,
little older.
that's a good pick. That's a good pick. Yeah, he still works out, and doesn't he like hang out here in the office or like the actual football off season? Or is he even working in West Kelowna anymore? Or is he out in Philly?
Never seen him.
Well, that's too bad. That's a shame.
Never seen him in any facet of life. Sorry, but
Yeah, I don't think he's a guy you'd miss walking around either.
I've heard some interesting stories about that guy, but that's a whole other thing. Let's just say I know firefighters, and there's some interesting stories about Danny Watkins, but not bad. Just dude did okay. Let's put it that way. the dude did okay. This has been a fun one. So we got week 8. Got week 8 coming up. Can't believe we're at week 8 of the NFL season. It's halfway, basically. I think pretty much. They added that extra week, so it kind of screws everything up. But good luck on your waiver wires this week. Good luck on your sneaky starts. This is going to be a fun one. Pay attention to those ad drops, because you might see a diamond in the rough that will help you out. So I'm going to be looking right as soon as the show's done. I'm already looking. Actually, I'm scrolling. So I wrote everybody's names down. I have Ricky Pierce already, so I'm good. Bub Means is still there, so I'm good. Tutu Atwell I don't have yet, so might have to add him. So any final words, anybody? Yeah, no, maybe, kind of.
Go Vikings, but I will be at the Seahawks game this week.
Ooh,
Yeah, have fun. That'll be cool. Did you get your PR pass?
I got my media pass, so
Attaboy.
pretty excited. We'll
excellent.
let you know how it goes.
No kidding.
You're looking for Keon Coleman since he's invisible. I don't know if I'll be able to see him, but
Ooh.
we'll see.
He'll be there, I promise. We DM all the time. Okay. On behalf of Steve, Ted, Matt, and myself, Ryan, this is That Helps No One Fantasy Cast on Area 51 Sports Network. Good luck this week. Hopefully you guys get a win under your belt.